Miller Moss will need a running game to support the aerial attack of Lincoln Riley and company, and they got a boost on this Monday, the first Monday of March. So welcome into Trojan Conquest Live. We do this each and every Monday. Hopefully you've adjusted to the new time. This is it, 10 p.m. Eastern Time, 7 p.m. where it counts on the West Coast. And right next to me, of course, Matt Zemek and Tim Prangley from Trojan's Wire doing a bang-up job as we head into March Madness. So please lock it in there. Guys, how we doing tonight?
Doing well. A coaching staff hire, but that'll be a little bit later in the show. But the vacancy opened up at running backs coach has been filled, so that's coming up later.
Yeah, big hire. We don't want to bury the lead, but that's the big story, right? Is that they did hire there's a new coaching hire for the Trojans, one that goes along alignment with the idea about development. This is I just got done writing an article about it, and this is definitely one more piece, this time on the offensive side of the opposite side of the ball, with a guy, a proven NFL developer of NFL running backs.
And before we get to that, if anybody is searching online, trying to catch up with the happenings in Indianapolis over the weekend, if you just Google NFL Combine or anything USC related, you're going to get bombarded with Caleb Williams. And there's nothing wrong with that. Certainly, he's the headliner. But we were here last week. And of course, Matt presented some of his candidates for being breakout players of sorts or needing to show themselves in the NFL Combine. So, Matt, based on what you had projected, what you had foreseen versus what we took in over the weekend, how do you think those particular players performed?
Yeah, well, Kalen Bullock clocked in at a 4.49 in the 40-yard dash. I don't, that doesn't put him at the head of the class, but it's certainly not. I don't think it's a bad time at all. So Brendan Rice at 4.51, with the size that he has at wide receiver, I don't think that's going to cost him at all. So I think some decent 40-yard dash times for a number of USC prospects. But the other story, and this is something that Tim and I talked about on our Friday call-in show, and it's worth talking about again on Monday for anyone who missed us on Friday night, because, well, you did other things on Friday night, and that's understandable. But it's notable that several NFL executives think that Christian Roland Wallace might actually become a safety in the NFL, and he played cornerback last season. And there are some NFL teams that are reportedly working out Kalen Bullock, who's been a safety, at corner. So if NFL teams think that, well, actually, two of the guys in your secondary should be playing other positions in the pros, what does that say about Alex Grinch? And what does that say about Dante Williams? So, we're not going out of our way to bag on these guys. It's just that we have another news story, or two news stories, really. One from an NFL insider, and one from just the reporting from NFL. What NFL teams are saying about USC prospects. Like this, these are just two organic events within the natural news cycle at the Combine, which just pour more mud on Alex Grinch and Dante Williams. So it's like it just adds to the depth to which, man, they just didn't have a clue about what they were doing at USC.
And if you saw Christian Roland Wallace when he came in, I mean, the dude was jacked when he came in. If you look at him at the Combines, I mean, he looks his shoulder. He's built like a safety. I mean, he really is. And so he could be that. He could be that in the box safety. He's not a big guy, but he's thick and strong and quick. So, it makes you wonder what was going on with the thinking. Because one thing about everyone talked about, from the linebackers, to the cornerbacks, the big question last year was people were scratching their heads going, what's going on with and the interior defensive line? what's going on with the roster? I mean, everyone all over Twitter, all the people I value on Twitter, make that same comment: roster. Again, it's in the rear view mirror, Matt. But we did have to make that comment. I think that we're going to see a lot different with the rest. Well, at least with the new staff coming in with Lynn.
Yeah, I was curious about Kalen Bullock too, because Matt enlightened me to let's look out for this guy. NFL scouts, even before the workouts, were saying, hey, this guy could possibly play corner at the next level versus being a safety. So, yeah, just to extend on Matt's point, Luke Fickell, if you're listening, just be on the lookout of maybe some players that are misplaced. Who knows?
Well, and one thing is worth mentioning here, just to piggyback on like the Alex Grinch element. I talked to the Badgers Wire's editor in a recent podcast, and I've yet to publish it. But in terms of the conversation that I had with the Badgers Wire editor, I was mostly asking him questions. He wanted to ask me, "Oh no, Alex Grinch, how much trouble are we in here at Wisconsin?" And I made the point, just from a Wisconsin point of view, just briefly, that with Luke Fickell overseeing the defense, like he's not going to give Alex Grinch too much authority. He's going to keep Alex Grinch in a box and limit his sphere of influence. So that's one thing. But the other thing is, it's not just that Lincoln Riley, to pivot back to USC, it's not just that Lincoln Riley got really good player development coaches. Like that is the headliner. That's the main story about the defensive staff overhaul at USC. That's the main point. But the second point, and this is a really important point that I think we need to make sure gets emphasized, is that Lincoln Riley didn't just get elite player developers. He is using a collaborative model. And that's the other thing that was missing at USC on defense last season. Alex Grinch just had too much autonomy, too much authority, too much leeway to make various decisions. It wasn't routed through a conference, a true collaboration of several guys, all bouncing ideas off each other, weighing in with their studied evaluations and all arriving at a joint plan. That's really important for this USC defensive staff. As good and as talented as I think D'Anton Lynn is, he's only 34 years old. And so you have other really mature, really experienced, seasoned guys in that room. Entz, Henderson, Belk, and they're all going to confer and they'll come up with a unified plan. And the guy, when they met the media like 3 weeks ago in Los Angeles, all of them said, it's not about one person's way, it's about our way. It's about the USC way. It's about collaboration. It's about all coming together and melding our skills as teachers, as coaches, as player developers, and it's going to be fused into a plan where all 11 players on the defense are going to be working together. So it's not just that Lincoln Riley got guys who individually, know what they're doing a lot more than Alex Grinch and Dante Williams ever did. It's also that there's going to be collaboration. So too much power is not going to be invested in one guy. So when we get around to these things that we were talking about just a moment ago about guys, at corner, maybe they should have been playing safety. Safeties maybe should have been playing corner if that's what NFL teams want to do. There were so many mistakes and so many points of confusion about what position you should play and how you should play it and which players deserve to be getting the reps on Saturdays. Like one of the main complaints of the USC fan base, and a lot of the people who are watching us right now here at the Voice of College Football, Tackett Curtis was playing too much. I mean, he had potential, but kept throwing him out there in a starting role. He was soaking up way more snaps than his play, his performance merited. And so it's not just that Grinch wasn't developing talent. It's not just that he had an overly complicated scheme, but he wasn't putting players in their right position, and he was playing the wrong players more. So, other than that, how was the play, Mrs. Lincoln? So, there are lots of things to go through, but I think that one point that I was making earlier, it's not just that Lincoln Riley's hiring better personnel, it's the shift from one guy being in charge of the defense to a much more collaborative model. I can't stress enough how important that is for USC.
Yeah, and really quickly, not to shift gears too much, but just I just put on the bottom here. These are all the members. You guys, we do have a membership for the channel. Just wanted to thank some of the guys here, guys like Jeff Rodriguez, Todd Gwynn, who are always here. They're both members, as well as who else is here? Let's do a roll call. Jeff. That's it. This is two guys right now. But there are a number of members, you guys, and Matt and Mark. I'm not sure when you guys will start up your video series again. Oh, and Matt, sorry, and start.
But Tim, I am very glad that you brought that up. That's on my to-do list right now because I had noticed some new members to the channel. Absolutely. We thank you so much for being here for us. Of course, Tim and Matt get together every Friday night with a call-in show. We do this every Monday night. So thank you, because I know from my experience with the membership on the main channel and then also here, some of you say, hey, this is just to say thank you for what you do. But for many of you, absolutely, we're going to deliver and have delivered bonus content. So we will reward the memberships. We've got 13 or 14 segments posted between Matt and myself, really deep dive, serious, hardcore college football, high-level conversations. And we will knock some more out once Matt gets past basketball. We get into later in April. Spring practice may bring us some storylines, and of course, everything that's going on with the landscape of college football and all the possibilities out there as we move into May and June. Matt will take some of that. I don't know that I can really call it downtime for myself or really for Matt as well, but we will take some of that time and produce some additional bonus segments, everyone. And the three of us are getting together here very soon for these two are just making this happen here on this channel, but we expect to deliver even more. So folks, just we appreciate you being here for us and joining the community here at the Voice of College Football on the USC side.
I just want to pop in with this comment from John about the bonus content. John, as a Michigan guy, one of our bonus cuts, our choice cuts for USC channel members at the Voice of College Football deals with the most important season, the most important football season in the history of the Big Ten Conference. So with USC and UCLA, Oregon, Washington joining the Big Ten this year, we're definitely going to do some Big Ten themed bonus cuts. And one of our already recorded bonus cuts, it's right there for members, deals with the most important season and year in the history of Big Ten football. So that's the kind of thing you're going to get. It's not just going to be USC stuff. We try and create a more expanded 40,000 foot view and tapping into Mark's rich historical knowledge of college football for these bonus cuts.
And then also my absolute favorite, the phones went down the phone line. Everyone was having a good laugh at it. We had Lurch from Adam's Family just constantly, or Matt was saying it was Darth Vader. We have it all sorted out now. But one thing that fell out of that is I missed a call from my buddy here, Gary and Dana Point. Gary, I hope you call on Friday. It was weird for me not to get a call from you each week, but look for that call coming on Friday.
A lot of positive comments in the comment section about the Voice. People love the Voice. People were splitting their guts out there on that one. So absolutely.
I was dying inside, to be honest, because again, that call-in show is my absolute favorite thing I do all week long is that call-in show, and to have it just tank like that, we got it figured out in the end, but yeah, it was kind of a rough sledding.
Well, Lincoln Riley's hoping that it's rough sledding for opposing rush defenses. We've got one Anthony Jones Jr. coming on board from TCU. And when you really look through the bio, as I did over the last 45 minutes or so, not just at TCU, but also at Memphis, even with TCU struggling overall from a record standpoint at 5-7 this past year, still had extremely impressive rushing numbers And Amani Bailey was their first 1,000-yard back, going back about 6 or 7 years as well. But top 15 to 20 rushing stats, even in a down season. And of course, that previous team with Amari DiMarcado leading the way, who's now in the NFL, beat Michigan and made it all the way to the national championship game. And 4 drafted running backs out of Memphis under his direction: Antonio Gibson, Marcus Pollard, and some of those, Tony Pollard, and some of those guys with the Memphis Tigers.
I think the thing that jumps out to me is just, that Garrett Riley was, part of that 2022 TCU staff that got Sonny Dykes to the national championship game. So like this should be a very easy fit on staff with Lincoln Riley. Like there's already a built-in shared knowledge base. It's not as though this is a coach that's going to really be behind any sort of curve and is going to need extra time learning the ins and outs. So like that's the main thing. And the other thing that really jumps off the page, also connected to TCU from 2022, not just Garrett Riley, but whom did TCU defeat in the semifinals? Michigan. So, there's an awareness of, okay, how do we solve a Michigan defense? And obviously Michigan did take it to a whole nother level in 2023, made significant improvements on defense to win the national championship. But nevertheless, when you're going into the big house for that September 21 game, Anthony Jones is going to say, well, here are a few things I learned from going up against Michigan and the way that the Wolverines do business on defense. So there are some components there that readily jump off the page and that USC will try to make the most of.
And then I kind of led off with it, but it truly is going to, USC's had a hard time. Actually, California in general, there's been kind of a lack of those elite running backs. You had Milton, went to Georgia a little while back, and then USC's had a hard time getting that super elite. And I'm very happy with the running backs we do have. I think the Quentin Joyner's absolutely, I wrote about him. He's a home run threat waiting to happen. I'm excited about him. I'm excited who Marion Peterson we have there. Woody Marks coming in, and then Brian Jackson. I like our running back room, but what it's missing is that highlight, marquee guy. If you want to be that star chaser guy, that top national running back. The USC, USC is running back even after all we've kind of lost over time. If you take the entire amount, just in our running backs alone, and not even the ones that won Heisman's, the Ricky Bells out there. There's lots of guys that should have won. Anthony Davis, right? The Notre Dame killer, the leprechaun killer, right? He alone is a reason why when you look at USC, you just think right away about running backs. And recently, we've had some good ones. We had Buck Allen come through here, Ronald Johnson come through here recently-ish, but they're not getting that national splash name. And what I do like also is that he was a recruiting coordinator also at Memphis. And he's got his ties in Texas. USC has done a great job recruiting Texas forever. If you look at 5 of the top 20 all-time running backs in yardage and career yards are from the state of Texas for USC. So USC has recruited Texas going all the way back, and they've always been productive for us. But I'm wondering if a name, and we keep talking about it, getting guys to the NFL, like you said, Mark, he got 4 guys in 3 years into the NFL from Memphis. From Memphis. So, you're talking about a guy that's shown that we said you walk into that living room and say, hey, come to USC with all our NFL, with all the sunshine, going to the Big Ten. Oh, and by the way, I get guys into the NFL like water for chocolate, man. It's just going to happen. Nothing. It's going to come flying out. No problem. So I can't wait to see what he can do on the recruiting trail. Granted, it's going to take a little bit of time, but and also I can't wait to see what he does with these running backs. Kyle McDonald is an amazing running back coach. This is nothing against him, but let's just see what also now, off of that tutelage, what they can parlay that into and go forward into the season, because we're going to need to run the ball. That's, we know we're going to need to run the ball, and we have the guys to do it. Let's see what he can do.
Do we have a pretty good idea what that pecking order is going to look like, or is there a lot to be decided here in the spring sessions and going into August?
I would just say that I would think that Woody Marks is probably going to be the leader, just based on Marshawn Lloyd being a transfer from an SEC school last season, and he was the RB1. So Woody Marks is probably going to have that same designation. But I think a key question, and I think Tim agrees with me on this. I'm not sure, but I think he agrees with me on this. I would really like to see USC have an elite running back by committee approach, because that way, if you're playing more guys, they can be a little bit more full tilt. Each separate guy, when he's carrying the ball, you can just go at and attack defenses a little bit more. But if you play fewer players, then they're kind of managing their bodies, they're managing how many hits they take. And like USC has leaned on one guy for most of these first two seasons of the Lincoln Riley era, really leaned on Travis Dye. Austin Jones got more run only after Dye got injured late in the 2022 season. And then last year it was predominantly Marshawn Lloyd. So I think that in 2024, going into the Big Ten and also realizing how important it is to run the ball, control the clock, limit the exposure to your defense, make down and distance more manageable for Miller Moss. The running game needs to be more prominent within the USC offense. And I think that using more guys, not just for their different styles, but just so that no one guy is getting beaten up over the course of the full season. I think it's more important to make sure that guys are rotating so that they stay fresh against this Big Ten and overall schedule gauntlet that USC is going to be facing in 2024.
I think of the Texas trio that I call the three guys, Jackson, Peterson, and Joyner. I think Joyner just kind of tipped their hand a little bit, and he seemed like he got a lot of touches. Obviously, Jackson's a freshman. He's the banger. He's the big dude in this group, so he's going to get. I'm sure he's going to get some. I want to see him short yards, see how that's going. But I think that Quentin Joyner, to answer your question, Mark, I think it might be a battle for early carries between Joyner and Marks. Marks being probably the QB1, but for a change of pace, running back, bringing in a guy that has elite track speed like Quentin Joyner, it's a great problem to have. Which one of these guys you want to have on the field?
And just to expand on Matt's point about the depth piece, I've heard this from about 3 of the elite coaches across the country, the guys that are expected to go deep into the playoffs, that run the kind of programs that it's automatically determined, thought of that we go deep into the playoffs. They're already talking about positions in this way, running back in particular. When Quinshon Judkins was signed at Ohio State, one of the first things Ryan Day said was, we expect to be playing 16 or 17 football games. So it's not a 12-game season, tack on 1 or 2 games. We expect to play 16 or 17. We don't want to be beating up a Travion Henderson for 25 carries against Rutgers and Maryland. No, we want to spread it out. We need to have depth at these positions. And running back's one of those positions, right? These guys get beat up. We've long since heard and seen the situation going into the NFL with a lot of these backs that have short careers. Defensive line is going to be another one where even more depth is going to be needed as these seasons drag on. And it's not just the number of games. Think about the quality of opponent and the physicality. Let's say if there's 3 extra games played, hopefully by USC in a successful season, let's just throw out the number 3. That wear and tear might be more like 5 games because of the opponents they're going to be playing.
Well, no, go ahead. I mean, the post we're going to play teams with defenses, and I'm excited to get into the Big Ten, but it's not like USC was playing FCS before they.
I'm not talking about the Big Ten.
Oh,
I'm talking about playing deep playoff runs. I'm talking about playing top 10 teams in the nation in a playoff to extend the season rather than not playing anyone, playing a bowl game, and that's that.
Oh, I like your optimism, Mark. Okay, yeah, well, yeah. I mean, if you start getting into 14, 15 games, that depth at running back, which again, we have I think we do have the quality of depth, and you're gonna need that going forward. It's a great point about, we always talk about, all three of us talk about, this is a game of attrition. People get hurt. Maybe people are even out there that they're not even 100%. So having those guys and having that depth is a great point. I missed that point.
You talk about some of these guys possibly being like a Quentin Joyner, being a game breaker, and earlier, Tim, your point about what the tradition of this school is, and certainly it would be a great argument as running back you, and I think it probably is. But in recent years, some nice backs. Ronald Jones still playing at Tampa Bay. I forget wherever he is at this point, but drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but not having that type of nationally acclaimed running back. But that brings us to your guy, Tim, and he's back in the news this week. And I'm thinking that Johnny Manziel has suddenly become one of your favorites.
Well, yeah, he came. Johnny Manziel is keeping it real, isn't he? I mean, look, I'm not gonna disparage anyone. And the thing that makes me so upset about the whole Reggie Bush thing, and I'll go back to it again, is this rule that they had has been shown to be flat out illegal. So when they say, yeah, well, we had this rule back then, here's my question. Didn't they have a rule for Tennessee? I think they did have a rule on the books. And then all of a sudden, Tennessee lawyers up. And now all of a sudden, it's not against the law. So against the rules. So how come that can happen for Tennessee, but it can't be? So the people that hide behind the fact to say, well, it was a rule back then, so that's why he got charged with it. Well, it wasn't the rule in the book for Tennessee as well, as far as inducements and stuff like that. Are we going to just start switching? And again, my issue always with the NCAA is just how capricious their rulings are. And quite frankly, if you really want to go into it, in the Reggie Bush investigation, that investigation has been shredded by district courts. It's been proven that everything they'd said, and almost everything they said, including going down to the Todd McNair, especially the Todd McNair case, they accused Todd McNair of doing things that when it went in front of the judge, he said, this is all doublespeak. This didn't happen. This is all hearsay. And you're trying to make it seem like you're taking one little thread and you're running with it, when in reality, we don't even know who called. I'm sorry, I don't want to go into the whole thing, but the investigation was crap. The capriciousness of who gets penalized, who doesn't, what rules stick, what rules don't. And then my final point to make is if that rule is illegal today, it was illegal back in 2005. So what are we talking about here as far as Reggie Bush?
This is what I think we're talking about. And I agree with everything you just said. If, again, I plead ignorance on this situation, and I got obliterated several weeks ago for a number of comments that I made, including forgetting things. I'm sorry, Reggie Bush has not been at the forefront of my brain for the last 17 years. Yes, I was very involved and understood the case and everything involved at the time and had an opinion on it at the time, but I must be getting old. I've forgotten in 17 years. I've not reacquainted myself with the facts. Regardless, my only point to that, Tim, would be, and this in no way negates anything that you just said, but I would think that the Tennessee situation would be dealt with because it's currently in play, and we don't want to penalize anyone that could currently be penalized for that's currently participating, so that would be more of a priority. That would be my only pushback on that.
Agreed. Yeah. I mean, I don't want any student athlete ever penalized for any of this stuff. It's absurd. But there have been people that have been hurt by the NCAA, not just USC. Many schools, many players, and the best thing that I hear all the time is they really got USC. You know what they did? They kept 30 young men from getting college degrees from USC. Well done, NCAA. You guys did a good job on that one as well.
Let's circle back to Johnny Football. There's a lot of resonance here in that it's Johnny Manziel and not just any other past Heisman winner taking this stand. Because as we know and as we've discussed, as Tim has discussed, certainly, that Johnny Manziel's been pretty open about, the extent to which he capitalized on his fame, the extent to which he cashed in at Texas A&M. The fact that it's Johnny Manziel saying this with all the changing, swirling winds regarding NIL and pay for play and all these forces, all while the NCAA is continually losing battles and losing leverage in all of this. Manziel specifically, as opposed to any other Heisman Trophy winner, entering the fray with this statement at this point in time, like everyone gets the message. Not just what Johnny Manziel said, but the fact that it's Johnny Manziel, not anyone else. There's extra resonance just because it comes from his mouth and not anyone else's.
I think, Matt, that he's just the only one with the cojones enough to say it. I mean, I want to see in the next couple of weeks, who's going to back Reggie, because it's one thing to say in the media, yeah, I think it sucks, but it's another thing to actually take a stand, right? What my dad says, I'll tell you, words are cheap, right? Actions are where it's at. And for him to say, I don't want a part of this, I know it's BS. Now, I mean, what are his actual intentions? I'm not even going to go there, but at least he is stepping out and saying, this is a farce. I'm not going to go as long as you keep Reggie Bush's trophy. But there's 7 other Trojans. Granted, Charles White's no longer with us, but that means there's 6 other Trojans out there that sure could come out in the media and stand behind, their fellow Trojan, their brother Trojan as well. That right there. Now all of a sudden, now you've got 7 people boycotting it. I'm sure that would pick up some traction. And, anyone that's also in the Heisman house, whoever took $100 handshake or a couple $1,000 from mom and dad or whatever, and they're not behind Reggie, man, shame on you as well. I'm sure there are some guys that never got a penny, but quite frankly, my stance on this. The fact that the universities, the presidents were lining university pockets, all the TV executives making billions and billions of dollars, and these families, are struggling. These kids back in the day, especially when there was a year-round training table, starving and throwing dollars together trying to get a pizza. 300-pound linemen. You know what you have to eat if you're a 300-pound lineman to keep your weight? Do you know what I mean? And yet the NCAA is making them live on these tiny stipends while they're building $110,000 stadiums and packing in more money and more people and concessions. I'm sorry. The whole thing, amateurism, yes, I am all about that. But at the same time, these players should have gotten a bigger stipend. They should have got a bigger cut of the pie. Maybe we wouldn't even be where we are right now if these guys hadn't been so damn greedy and gave some more of the money back to these players who were making all the money.
I would just want to step in, Tim, on the point of, the USC's other Heisman winners standing up for Reggie Bush. It wouldn't look all that great if OJ was the first guy to step up, nor would it look all that great if Mike Garrett did so, because he was in charge of the whole athletic program when the NCAA hammer came down. So, no one would say, oh, Mike Garrett spoke out about this. We need to take this seriously. So, you want to cross those 2 guys off the list. If you were doing a power ranking of former USC Heisman Trophy winners who, if they did speak up, would really maybe move the needle in the room, I put Marcus Allen number 1.
Yes.
I think that you get that older guy from the student body right era, who's not too proximate to the Pete Carroll era. He's the obvious choice. So no pressure, Marcus, but it would really help if you stepped up and took a stand like that. That would carry some weight in the room. You could make an argument for Carson Palmer, because he whereas Matt Leinart and Reggie Bush were teammates and part of a national champion, Carson Palmer came in right beforehand. So Carson Palmer would be second on the list, but Marcus Allen would definitely be first. So Marcus Allen, if you get wind of this video, hey, if you want to give Reggie Bush, if you want to provide your own Bush push, now would be a mighty fine time to do so.
What are these guys really sacrificing? What are they really risking by standing up for Reggie Bush?
Marcus Allen, of all the, he's not risking anything. He's got his gold jacket. Do you know what I mean? So it's great to have the trophy collecting dust, but Marcus is in the NFL Hall of Fame. You know what I mean? So that's really, in my book, is up there. I know collegiate winning the Heisman Trophy. But it's not, if anyone can see where this is going, it's not like they're going to miss more than maybe one, possibly two of these events, if anything, to begin with. And Matt, I would say, you're right. Garrett may not be a huge favorite of the NCAA and maybe not even some USC fans, but his name, as far as Heisman's and Heisman winners in that milieu, is not really that tarnished at all. I mean, he's great back, went on to play in the NFL with the Chiefs. So, I mean, he's a solid receiver. I think he could be there. Now, again, those fools over at the NCAA might have, but who gives a crap about those guys? They're the ones that are the problem. You know what I mean? So I hope he could. But I think the number one person would be Matt Leinart for this simple reason. Yes, he was his teammate, but he's on Big Noon, and he's now, granted, maybe that's probably the reason why he can't do it, right? I know when you work for corporations, they say, we will employ you, but we have a certain level we want you not to cross politically and whatever. You kind of got to toe the company line on things. So that might handcuff him. But I think as far as impact, as far as, kids these days and viewers these days, they think USC. They do think Matt Leinart, probably even over Carson Palmer, probably even over a Marcus Allen, believe it or not, in my opinion. It's just because he's on TV every day.
Did Reggie Bush leaving the Big Noon kickoff show, did that have anything to do with his status with the NCAA?
Not that I'm aware of, but I don't know anything for a fact.
I heard it was a contract dispute. I think it was over money. I really don't know. That I don't know. I really don't have information on that. We have a bunch of super chats lining up. We've missed a couple. You want to go hit some of those really quick?
Sure. Heck yeah.
All right. So first one up, we have first off, John. Again, you guys, he was just on the Ocho. You guys got to make sure you're checking that out. 5:00 on the national channel as well. He does the Michigan live show. I'm not sure if you want to drop that in the chat. John, thank you so much for support, becoming a member. Really appreciate everything you do for us, this channel, and then the whole community. And then, I started a lot of these. Sorry. Then we have Slap Happy. See, most so they're talking about Anthony Davis. Most folks don't really know Anthony Davis as running back. Wrecked Notre Dame after down 28 at halftime. And
18, point stands.
What's that?
It was 18, not 28.
Oh, at halftime, right? But they like 50 straight some odd points. Yeah, it just absolutely demolished that. They kicked off, and the rest was, I think it was Ricky Bell actually that did that block that opened that block up for AD to run up. That, if you guys ever seen that famous run, the kickoff before my time, but he runs up the left side and scores a touchdown and sparks that comeback against the Irish for the 74 championship. And then Adam, another great supporter of the show. Hey guys, you often talk about coaching hires, but do we really have the players to be competitive in the Big Ten? And with this schedule, again, going back, it is a big contention thing for Adam and the schedule. The schedule is ridiculous. Jen Cohen should be ashamed. Again, remember, she does not set, it's the Big Ten that sets the schedule. As far as the LSU game and Notre Dame, we play Notre Dame every year. LSU was on the schedule as a neutral site game in Las Vegas. I don't know, Adam. I think that if we have the team that USC should be, that schedule should be fine. Go ahead, look at Michigan's schedule. They play Texas, Ohio State, Penn State. Who else? I mean, pretty much the Big Ten. If you're in the Big Ten these days, if you play one or two out of conference games that are worth a sniff, you're gonna have a hell of a schedule these days. And remember, we've gone to the 12-team playoff,
So Adam's issue was not necessarily with the Big Ten piling on a USC, is it? It's more about Jen Cohen allowing the 2 non-conference games. And of course, Notre Dame's always scheduled, right?
Yeah.
That's what it appears.
I mean, maybe it's about the LSU game, but in terms of just the Big Ten schedule, like Mike Bone moved USC to the Big Ten. So Jen Cohen, that's not at her feet. And so like the wheels were already set in motion too, for that LSU game as well. So like this can't be laid at Jen Cohen's feet. These processes preceded her getting all these things lined up. So Adam, I think if there is a case to make against Jen Cohen as USC AD, and I'm not there yet, but let's just play along and let's allow for this argument to develop. I think if you were making the case against Jen Cohen, it's that she's been too passive and cautious in the NIL space. You know, she's so concerned with using the right salad fork, you know, proper etiquette, proper procedure, that she's not, you know, being that vulture who's just gonna swoop in and, you know, attack everything and be as aggressive as possible. I think that's a reasonable, albeit debatable, critique that you can make. And I think the other thing is, you know, are we going to fire Andy Enfield as basketball coach? That's one thing. So I think in terms of the NIL space, like that's the main thing where Jen Cohen needs to prove herself. She hasn't proven it yet, but like, let's give her credit hiring this defensive staff, you know, shelling out the dollars to bring these elite coaches aboard. That's a considerable investment on her part. She and Lincoln Riley seem to get along really well. There seems to be alignment there. And like her main job, if we're being honest, is to be Lincoln Riley's friend and supporter, and to make sure that she has a good relationship with the head football coach. And maybe Adam, there's a little bit of uncertainty from your end about Lincoln Riley. Fair enough, but Jen Cohen was hired to make sure that Lincoln Riley is happy as USC coach, because there was already a good relationship between Lincoln Riley and Mike Bone. So Jen Cohen, by all appearances, seems to be handling that relationship well. But I think the place where she is being tested and is going to continue to be tested is in the NIL space. And that's where we need to see, especially in light of this recent NCAA loss, you know, and the three of us have all talked about it. Can USC feel a little bit more emboldened, not to go full renegade, you know, to go rogue, but certainly to take some more liberties and take advantage of this increased space in which, you know what, you don't need to worry about the NCAA hammer because it's not coming, because the NCAA just has been stripped of just about all leverage right now. Can Jen Cohen take advantage of that shift in the landscape and be more aggressive and productive in the NIL space?
I got news for everyone. Jen Cohen's not going anywhere. We're lucky to have her. And I tell you what, you're all gonna be really happy if our guy Lincoln Riley decides to go to the NFL, which he very well could do in a couple of years. That guy over at Alabama? What is it, Kalen DeBoer? She hired him. She's been instrumental. And if you want, I think it was, I can't remember who brought it up, but she's known for being, you know, rolling up her sleeves. She talked about her own interviews. She getting in there during the hiring interview process. That's what real ADs do. And, you know, I can forgive any kind of missteps, being cautious, because our history shows that, guess what? You know, for some reason, they'll miss a bunch of other people and a couple other major conferences and they'll lop off the heads of whoever gets out of line in the Pac-12 or the ACC. You know, that's what they're going to do. And they'll let other things, well, sorry, unless your name is Miami, then you go scot-free as well. But I could forgive a little bit of that because I think that she is an absolute rock star AD, and she will show us that with hires. But speaking of one more thing, we have the last one. Tim, USC needs to hire Joe Girardi. So now we're going to Pine Tar, Peanuts, and Cracker Jacks. Let's see what Stankiewicz can do. Okay, it's again. I'm just preaching patience. He had that great run last year. They almost made the regionals. You know, let's just let that soak in. It's gonna take some time to build this proud USC baseball program up. They got some pieces. They got some decent pitching. They need some relief pitching, man. I think that's really the problem they've had recently. So let's just wait on the Joe Girardi. I think Joe Girardi's fine. You know, what was it? The Phillies? What was the last team he was with? Right. So I mean, I think that he's enjoying retirement probably at this point. I don't know.
And I'll just say this, Adam, about baseball. You know, great first season, not so good second season. That doesn't mean you fire the coach. Kind of like football.
Yeah. Then there's work to be done. Again, you guys, we're all used to these instant turnarounds. Sometimes it takes a little while to turn around a program, especially when, you know, again, once proud program, USC's been down for a while, and it's and it's tough. It's tough when the guys across town have been doing well, you know. So practice a little bit of patience, and then Barry Fisher.
We'll get to Barry in a second, Tim. But just one of the things to remember about firing coaches is that you need to know that they'll never go beyond a certain standard, or they'll never reach the standard you lay out for them, that you expect of them. That's when you fire a coach. You know that like the ceiling's been reached and it's low and it's unsatisfying. You can know with certainty he's never going to get beyond this reasonable bar that we've set for someone. 2 years, usually, especially if one of those 2 years is great, great first year, bad second year, you don't know in that kind of scenario if a coach is going to be able to cut it. Now, maybe you can carve out like a very particular exception. Like maybe year one, you have this amazing team, and then year two, all the amazing players from year one leave the program. The comparison could be Mark Helfrich at Oregon, right? He comes in with the 2014 team with Mariota, had everything at his disposal and maxed it out. But then as soon as all those stars left, then you had the decline. But that's a very particular situation and a very particular circumstance. Normally, when a coach takes over a program, any sport, and you give him 2 years and one of those 2 years is good, you generally don't know that the coach will never be able to meet expectations long term. And that's why the third year is like the tiebreaker, for lack of a better term. If you have one really good year and one really bad year, the third year will move the needle, usually one direction or the other. So in the vast majority of cases, 2 years is not enough to know. 2 years in which 1 year is good and 1 year is bad. I mean, two horrible years, all right? But if 1 year is really good and 1 year is really bad, that's usually not a scenario in which that the coach is never going to measure up.
Well, speaking of coaches in their eighth season, ninth season, you guys I think you brought it up. So just recently, Andy Enfield, so he was tied with Bob Boyd, the legendary Bob Boyd of the 1970s and 60s, Matt. I think 60s and 70s.
60s and 70s,
legendary coach. If you didn't have this guy named John Wooden across town, USC would probably have a couple of national. There's some pretty damn good USC basketball teams. But anyway, the guy that everyone wants to fire, and I know he's definitely on the hot seat. I mean, he's recruiting lights out. I don't know. It just seems like for whatever reason, he can't get over that hump. Mark's starting to fidget because I know we're talking too much baseball and basketball. We're going to get back to it, but just we couldn't let it go without talking about the fact that he's probably, if he hangs around a couple more years, might actually beat Sam Barry for that overall record. If the torches and pitchforks can stay away long enough, if he has a couple of three or four good seasons, he could come and be the all-time winningest coach in USC history. So just some food for thought.
Okay, I'm back. I was in a bit of a daze
Barry,
there.
Let's thank Barry.
Yeah, Barry, thanks again. Thank you for being here. We appreciate you, appreciate our work, but we're nothing without you guys. I mean, I'm sure Mark, Matt, and I would sit around and talk football. We often do, but it makes it a hell of a lot better if we got people to talk to. So we appreciate you and everyone else being here. Thank you, Barry, for the great words.
For anyone out there that's been keeping track, or more or less at this point, it's just keeping track of speculation involving what this all could look like across the college football landscape. And of course, the SEC and the Big Ten have formed an advisory board, and we've covered that at length over on the national channel in recent weeks. 11 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday, I'm going live, and we're going to go team by team through the college football survivor pool and say, do they make the cut? Okay, they made the cut. Are they going SEC? Are they going Big Ten? Okay, next team, Kansas State. Where are they going to land? Are they going to land in or out? And we will give our pros and cons for all the various universities and football programs. That's 11 a.m. Eastern time on Tuesday. Well, guys, what else is on the docket? Anything else that we have yet to touch on? I've been combing through the comments that came into the channel this week, but don't see anything in particular that stands out.
There's just a Caleb Williams note. I know that he's just sucking all the oxygen out of the room at the combine and in the NFL world right now. But the Bears have stated, now this doesn't mean they're going to do it. Like, this could be a trial balloon coming from Chicago. But the Bears GM, Ryan Poles, has said like he would like to trade Justin Fields before NFL free agency begins. NFL free agency begins March 13th, so just over a week away. So, maybe the Bears were just using a smokescreen. They aren't actually going to trade Fields before NFL free agency. But if they're serious about doing that, then in the next week we could learn where Caleb Williams is headed. And it was just funny on Friday at the Combine, Pro Football Talk's Twitter account tweeted out, quote unquote, condolences to the Vikings, Lions, and Packers. So so Pro Football Talk thinks that Caleb Williams is going to be a generational NFL quarterback, but I'm gonna take like the middle ground position. Like, I think Caleb Williams has generational talent. Like, in that sense, I'm fully sold on him, but I don't think that Caleb Williams is so great that he will just transform whatever NFL organization he arrives at. I think you need competence. You need a smart organization that knows how to put all the pieces together. I'm not seeing that with the Bears. And the fact that the Bears, retained their previous head coach and didn't go after Jim Harbaugh, didn't go after Pete Carroll, didn't go after Bill Belichick, that is setting up Caleb for a situation in which if 2024 doesn't go well, Caleb's going to then have a second head coach in 2 years. That's not putting Caleb Williams in a position to succeed. I'm not commenting on Caleb Williams, the player. I'm commenting on you need to come into a mature NFL organization that knows what it's doing. The Bears have not checked that box for quite some time. So I really do think that team fit is important for Caleb Williams.
The Bears organization has been a graveyard for potential franchise quarterbacks going all the way back to like Sid Luckman. You could make an argument that they have not had one since then. I know Jim McMahon won a Super Bowl, but he did not carry the offense. He was not a franchise player. He was a star. He was a character that became a star, mostly because of that really good quarterback. But really, he and somebody else came to mind briefly, and they're gone. Jay Cutler had that kind of talent, but never materialized into that kind of player. So it's been a dearth of franchise quarterbacks for the Chicago Bears for decades.
Gotta get this in because Slap Happy is one of our supporters, provides a super chat. What's the Juju Lewis update? Chris Trevino of 247 Sports, Slap Happy showed footage of Juju Lewis practicing this past week. So, in terms of like a visit to Colorado or Georgia or anything, don't have anything there, but like he's honing his craft. That's what I can tell you about the past week.
He's out there recruiting for USC as well. They were just out here in Southern California. I'm kicking myself. I couldn't get out there, but just Westminster, right down the street from here in Orange County, there was a 7-on-7 event, I believe, that he was a part of, and I really wish I could have got out there to see it. But yeah, I'm telling you guys, don't sweat it. Juju Lewis, unless we see something unforeseen happen here in the next year or so, is going to be a Trojan. And I tell you what, 2015 is looking pretty meager, but that could turn around really fast. The recruiting dead period has just ended, right? Started up, and you're going to see you're going to start seeing USC make some headway. We didn't have that quarterback, right? Usually a guy that's going to kind of solidify your class. You can be that guy's going to bring guys in. Generally, your best ones are those quarterbacks, and having a guy of Juju Lewis's stature, being that guy. Now, the weird thing is he's not a 2015 guy. Remember, he reclassified. So really, a lot of the guys he's really tight with are the next year's class, but he still can, being a top quarterback and having the charisma and the confidence he has, he can be in that galvanizing force to bring a lot of guys in to a very special USC class for next year. It will help if USC can win, 9, 10, 11 games in the Big Ten next year, but we will see how that goes as well.
And of course, we're roughly 3 months, a little bit more than that, away from what we usually get is that summer surge. We get those camps right at the end of May into June, those weekend camps, and then guys start to commit right after that, after they visited the camps during the open period in June.
And we can't skip over this one. So again, we can't talk too much about data. I got you on Gillespie. We can't really, or losing Savage, right? We're not going to go into baseball. We're done with baseball. But Matt, you need a call for Kiffin's hiring. Are you there yet? Because every week, Adam wants to know.
Adam, you're sick of waiting for baseball and football. You don't have to wait for women's basketball. Number 2 seed in the NCAA tournament could play UCLA for a number 1 seed this Friday night. So you don't need to wait for them. So just follow that different path, buddy.
Adam's standards are high. The football team has been terrible for several years. That 11-2 team was terrible 2 years ago.
They had some serious holes, but it was a great turnaround for sure. But
Adam's telling me, oh geez, hey, come on. We won 2 national championships in the 1980s. We were the first women's basketball dynasty. Cheryl Miller, baby. I don't know why that gets second class status.
Must not be a big ladies hoops fan, Adam. I don't know. I shouldn't say that. I don't know.
You should watch Juju Watkins. It might change your mind really quick. That kid is special. Yeah.
Yes, I would say I personally have not watched a women's basketball game since I was paid to do so. That was the last time. That was about 2000, covering the SEC. All right, folks. Tim, Matt, anything else? Parting shots? We good to go?
Well, this is sort of, I could cheat a little bit. Deuce Robinson yesterday got his first base hit as a Trojan. Deuce Robinson being he came in as like one of the top tight ends, but it was really quick. Lincoln Riley made everyone know this guy's a receiver, and we saw some glimpses of what he can do. We saw some growing pains, but you can see that guy is like a long stride. He gets out there, he gets separation. He's big, he's strong on the football field. Well, he's played in 3 games, started, I think, a couple, and now he got his first base hit, which coincidentally, he knocked himself a deuce. He got a double. So Deuce Robinson with a double to start things off. How apropos.
Folks, this is the time to get ready for March Madness. Of course, we're just at the outset. We'll have conference championship games, tournaments coming up here in the next 10 days or so, I would guess. I'm completely amiss on the current college basketball scene, but I know my calendar. So we are upon conference tournaments. So lock it in with Tim and with Matt with USC basketball coverage, both men's and women's. And of course, we are here with the football as well on a regular basis. So Matt, anything in particular you want to highlight there?
Yeah, no, I mean, like the big story for USC athletics this week is the Pac-12 women's tournament, and USC and UCLA could play in the semifinals Friday night in Las Vegas. That could be for a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. The other landmark item about that game, if it happens, it will be the last Pac-12 women's basketball game on Pac-12 Network, because the final of the tournament is on Sunday on ESPN. And then that's it. That's the last conference game on Pac-12 Network. And then next year, USC will be on Big Ten Network.
And then the Pac-12 will be hanging on to what? Baseball and softball at that point, and then be finishing out its run sometime in June, I would guess.
Yeah, track. That'd probably be it. Yeah.
All right.
And listen, we haven't done it, but you guys, thank you so much for helping us get to 5,000. Let's get to 10,000. You are not already subscribed, please do us a favor. Hit that like button, subscribe. Just click this little button down here in the corner. I'll get you going, and make sure you hit that bell notification, because I'm going to try to wrangle Matt into going live. I almost thought about it, but going live with the Johnny Manziel news, but I don't think I could pull him away from basketball for that one. But you guys, we will be going live randomly if we get something big going. We have Pro Day coming up, for USC. I'm gonna try to sneak myself into a media pass for that and get on there and then a fall camp starting up later in the month. So come here, you guys, and go to Trojan Wire. Drop my link for my Trojan Wire articles in the chat. Share it out. Help me out. Yeah, go check out some links. I put 7 new stories in the last 2 days, so there's lots to talk about, lots to look at there on Trojan's Wire. Appreciate everyone being here and supporting us, the channel, as well as Trojan's Wire.
All right, everyone. We'll see you back here next Monday at 10 Eastern, 7 o'clock Pacific on Trojan Conquest Live. In the meantime, lock it in to Trojan's Wire.
And spring forward.
And Friday at 6 o'clock, join us as always. And one last thing, free Reggie, 4,907 days. All right.
See you next time, guys.